Hello everybody, welcome back to Simple Gaming Review. It has been well, I did make a video recently today. That was just a short video. That was like a joke video because that was like the best PS5 game. I just want to make a quick video, but I decided to make another video for today because I've been sick all week and I've been feeling terrible. But I decided to make a video that I really want to talk about, and that is about offline gaming and the importance of offline gaming. Now, I've seen so many games get live service, or people want more and more live service games, which it's completely okay to have online games. You know, back in my Xbox 360 and my PlayStation 3 days, I used to play online all the time. I used to play Killzone online, I used to play Halo online, I used to play the old school Call of Duty games online. Online is not a big issue. But what is a big issue, what people should worry about, is game preservation, and are games going to be able to be playable in the future? Recently, we had the game The Crew, which is an online-only game that has an online requirement. The reason why The Crew is dead and was removed and delisted is because it's an online-only game. There was no single-player offline option. The same thing could happen to Fortnite, the same thing could happen to PUBG, the same thing could happen to Helldivers 2, and the rest of these online requirement games. Now, it is easy to do these online games and just have like this live service and they could just update and everything else. But the biggest issue with online games and having online only is that, again, it's online only, and these companies have a lot of control over that game. Just like what happened to The Crew, it can just simply be removed one day and just completely dead. See, the cool thing with old systems that are offline is that with a PlayStation 2, I can pull out my PlayStation 2, put a physical disc in the console, and my PS2 will play that game perfectly fine because it doesn't have to have a internet connection or DRM, right? So, even though online games are a big deal, and even though a lot of people love these live service games, you know, it is also good to have the offline single-player games to continue to be made and to continue to be created for people who, you know, want a game that can at least, you don't have the fear of it being delisted or completely removed, right? So, when it comes to all these online games that require a connection, like the new Battlefield game requires you to have a connection, Helldivers 2, which I hate that game also requires you to have a Wi-Fi connection or whatever. But when it comes to like the future of these consoles and for like the preservation of all these video games, it would be best if these companies actually had offline options. You know, Call of Duty has always had bot mode, right? You can make a intelligent AI for an offline experience that feels like you're playing against players. Back in the PlayStation 2 days, you had Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, and then you had Killzone 1 that had AI bots. You could make Fortnite easily with AI bots, completely offline. You could do Helldivers 2 completely offline with AI bots, right? It is not that difficult to implement these offline multiplayer bot matches, and it's actually really easy for these companies to do. So when it comes to game preservation and these games being able to be played in the future, like, you know, down the road when people actually want to come back to a certain game, it would be best if every single one of these games actually had a offline option. If The Crew had an offline option where you could actually play The Crew offline without needing to have an internet connection, then The Crew, you know, people would be less pissed off about it because it would have an offline option. But because The Crew requires an internet connection and requires you to have a connection to the servers, you know, once they cut that game is dead. And that is the issue with online gaming, and that is the issue with live service games, is that, again, as we've seen in the past, and as we see now, these online games that require you to have an account and a connection will one day just die off, you know. When it comes to Nintendo 64, PlayStation 2, even my PlayStation 3, those games on those game consoles, I can just put my games in and they work. Recently I was playing some PlayStation 3. I pop in my Killzone Trilogy disc or my Call of Duty Ghost disc, and the game just runs. I don't need to have an account. I don't need to have an internet connection. I can just get right to those games on my PS3. Same for my Nintendo consoles. Same for my PlayStation 2. And that is the way it should be. So I do think that there's still a lot. There's millions of single-player games. There's a whole bunch of games that you can get nowadays that are offline, that are single-player. Single-player and offline games, they're not going to go anywhere, right? But I do believe that it is important for these online games to have a offline option, because what happens if Helldivers 2 or Fortnite or PUBG or any of these games just dies one day, right? Once these games are dead, and once they lose access to those servers, it's done, right? So that is why offline is important, and that's why some of these companies should really, at least add a offline option. Because the crew is a waste of money, because the company literally just removed the crew and delisted it from people's consoles, and they lost it from the library because it was an online-only game. So people should actually want to have offline options, so that even if you like to play your games online, at least you have the option to play offline. So when the servers go down, you can at least visit these games and, come back to them at a later date without having to worry about losing that game. But anyway, I'm in the video, but that is why offline gaming is still important, even in 2024. Yes, I know that online gaming is a big deal. Everyone loves online. But it is important to still have a single-player offline experience. It is still very important for video games to have offline options. It's good for the preservation of gaming, and it's good for these games because, again, you want to go back to your games, don't you? You want to be able to go back to your physical games, you want to be able to go back to your digital games. All of my games on my PlayStation 5 are single-player and offline games, because I actually own those games. You can't take... they could if they wanted to, right? But they're not... These companies, for all the games I have on my PS5, they're not going to remove my games because they're all offline single-player games that do not require you to have an internet connection to play. So I'll never lose access to, Alien Isolation. I'm never going to lose access to, my Call of Duty Ghost on my PS5. I'm not going to lose access to any of my games on my PS5. Which I did recently download Call of Duty Ghost, because it is my favorite old-school classic Call of Duty game. But again, when it comes to my PlayStation 5, I mainly get single-player offline games. Sure, I would love to play Helldivers 2. Sure, maybe it would be fun to play some Fortnite, which I actually have played Fortnite before. On my PlayStation 4, I played Fortnite online and played a couple of matches. It is a pretty fun game, not gonna lie. But, I am mainly focused on single-player offline games. I think it would be really cool if these companies would just put a offline option so that people have, so it's optional, so that people actually have more choices in how they want to experience their games and how they want to play their games. But anyway, I'm in this video. Hope you all enjoyed. Leave a like and comment down below what you think about online requirement games having offline options, and just the whole game preservation when it comes to offline gaming. Again, perfect example of this is that I can pull out my Japanese PlayStation 2, I can put a game inside, and it would just run perfectly fine. Doesn't need a network, doesn't need any servers, it just works. So, I think gaming should always have offline single-player options, even if it's a big game like Battlefield that's very online-based. Come on, you could totally have bot mode, you can totally have an offline option, so when people stop playing that game or that game is completely dead, at least people could still play it and go back to it. It's not that big of a deal. It's so easy to make an AI, bot multiplayer game. Call of Duty has been doing it for years. But anyway, I'm in the video, so peace out, and I hope you all have a good day or night. I'm gonna go to sleep because I am sick and tired. Anyway, peace.